Hey everybody, Stephen Mead here for Domicile Real Estate, where we are on a mission to help California's renters become homeowners. Um, this is our first time home buyer market update video. We're saying this is for 326, 2021, March 26, which is actually yesterday. We compiled the stats for yesterday, but unfortunately we didn't get around to recording the video. One thing I want to take a second and talk about before we start is you might notice lately that our video times and our uploads have been a little bit unusual, and when we go live has varied quite a bit. And frankly, that's just because even though we love doing these videos, and believe me, I actually really enjoy doing these videos, our client work tends to come first. So that means if we are out showing property until late in the evening, we're out there showing property with clients or we're writing offers and we're not necessarily doing videos because we have to work with our clients in the field first. And as you might be aware, if you've been watching our videos for any length of time, we're in a very competitive market, especially for first-time home buyers. Sometimes it comes down to hours or even 10 minutes being in time on something. That can make the difference between a client getting a property and not getting a property, taking a phone call and not taking a phone call. So kind of bear with us on a little bit of the unreliability. We're really going to try to hit these on Friday instead of Saturday whenever possible. But it's just a bit of a crazy market right now, and clients come first. So the good news is I actually have two pieces of good news that we're going to go through this week, and it kind of surrounds both affordability and availability of housing. Those are really the two things that we like to cover in these videos. I also want to give just a little bit of a pep talk for people. If you are looking around you and you're watching the prices rise and you're watching all these things happen and you're feeling a bit discouraged, like you're never going to be able to get a house, you really want to avoid that kind of mental place. The practical side of me is going to tell you that doesn't help you in any way, but just from kind of a more philosophical standpoint, it's not true. We have clients across all price ranges, all credit levels at the moment. And yes, certain situations are absolutely more challenging, but we are finding success in getting our clients placed into houses across credit, across down payments, across price ranges. So, don't give up because it's not impossible. So now we're going to move in. And again, I said we're going to talk about both our affordability and our availability of housing here in Southern California. And just as a reminder, Southern California is Los Angeles and Orange counties, though a lot of this data does actually carry over to sort of the neighboring counties, San Diego, San Bernardino, Riverside counties as well. The first thing I want to talk about is our pricing here and to take a look at sort of where our closed prices are falling. If you look here, you'll see we actually did rebound a little bit on our entry-level single-family home. Again, look at the trend line, and I want which is a rise, but I want to make a really important point. And the really important point I'm going to make, and I don't think I've said this in a while, and I think this is really important for people to understand. So I'm going to go off share here for a second. Home prices, if people say home prices are going to go up 6% this year, right? Well, 6% this year would be 0.5% a month. Home prices do not look like this. They don't start and have this gentle increase throughout the year. That is not the way it works at all, in fact. And if we go back to our chart here, what they tend to look like is exactly like this. And this is real data, right? If we are going back towards the beginning of our year here, you'll see that the general trend is that they are rising. But look, we rose a bit, we dove down a bit, we jumped big time here, 620 to 680 during that week, which represents deals that were consummated or deals that were actually initiated in the beginning of January. The market moves that way. So the great news here is to look at sort of, where we are. Now, again, remember, this is based on closed data of entry-level properties. This represents where we were about a month ago, but I actually feel like things have not changed drastically since that point. We are on a little bit more of a trough here. We're not on this upswing, right? This is the moment where things are crazy. When you see there this week here, you'll see, look what happened in condos as well. those are the weeks when I think it's particularly challenging to buy a house and to get offers accepted. So, if you're a person, unfortunately, we can't go backwards, right? Like we can't go back to this point back here in 2019. That's just not possible. But it does mean that you can alter your strategy a little bit depending on exactly where the market is that week. And that's why we do these weekly videos, because the market does change week to week. So a little bit of good news there is that things are at least fairly level. And we actually got a little bit of relief. If you're looking here on the condo spectrum, this has been a far smoother graph in general. We did see a jump, but a little bit of a backtrack. I mean, things really have been in this 450s range pretty much for the last month now. So if we're moving on, what this does is this chart sort of takes those numbers and it corresponds these numbers to, to an actual payment level. And again, we base this based on 5% down, including mortgage insurance, including property taxes. In the case of our condos, that actually includes an HOA fee of $300 a month as well. And, we originally charted this to sort of show a relation back in time to 2018. If we go back to the middle of 2018, if you were buying an entry level single family home, your total payment would be about $3,600 a month. And for a condo, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, you'd be around $2,900 a month. Well, fast forward here to the end of March in 2021. Yeah, we're about $200 a month higher here for entry level single family home. And we're actually slightly less on our condo. And I think it's really important to have that perspective. But the other reason we did this was really to chart to sort of chart how much change there is week to week in these numbers, right? That both interest rates and closed sale prices. Now, again, you look back at what was honestly a very brutal week, right? If you were an entry level home buyer, you're seeing prices rise and you are seeing interest rates rise up. The other fun thing we like to do for affordability is just give an example of, if you have no other debts, how much money needs to be income do you have to show in your household to be able to afford these entry level properties using 5% down and including all those figures? Well, it's just under $93,000 for an entry level single family home, and it's right about $70,000 for our entry level condo. I still am very proud that these numbers, I think, are very reasonable. I wouldn't call these cheap numbers. Yes, these absolutely require that you have decent amounts of income, but I feel like these are doable numbers for a lot of households in our Southern California region. So, the good news here is that our prices have actually eased. Our affordability has gotten better in our condo segment, and it really has kind of slowed down its rise in our single family segment. I think when we saw this jump happen, the concern was, if things jump nearly $10,000 of income week to week, what kind of year was 2021 going to be? I actually think 2021, I think some of our biggest gains have already happened in terms of prices. Now, the only question that remains is what's going to happen to interest rates through the rest of the year. I think our price gains will be more modest through the rest of the year. It doesn't mean they'll be flat. It doesn't mean they'll drop, but I think they won't. I think they'll be more manageable through the rest of the year on average. So I promised two pieces of good news. And the second piece pertains to the availability of housing. And I think that has been something that we have literally struggled with since the first lockdown here in California. Even in that initial period, when it was easier to get into a house, the problem was still there weren't a lot of houses for sale, and not really much has changed. We've been waiting for that other shoe to drop on inventory all of last year, and it never really happened. We never got to what anybody would consider a normal level of inventory in the market. And the Southern California market isn't alone, right? People from Austin, Texas, people in any of these high desirability markets are really seeing pretty much the exact same sort of inventory problem. So if we go through here, let me get back our screen share. We're going to talk about availability because we've seen some improvement. So if we look here at our 14-day absorption rate, this is sort of our measure of supply and demand, right? If you look here, we saw that our condo numbers really increased. Both of these are hitting in the in the high 80s, low 90s. By any measure, this is still a very, very hyper competitive market. It is still very much an inventory constricted market. But the great news is we are not back here. Let me get out my pointer. We are not back here where we were about a month ago. And we're not even really, as far as single family homes, where we were 2 months ago. Our numbers are definitely better than that. And they're also flat, they're fairly steady. So I, the good news in this chart is that things aren't getting worse for you, right? Like they're at least holding steady. You're not watching the market deteriorate and get even harder in front of your eyes. Now, this is the second piece of good news, and there's really a lot to unpack in this chart. I'm going to start with the good news, right? The good news is that whenever we see these inventory figures heading upward, that's really the direction we want them to be going. And if you look over the past month or so in our entry level single family home segment, that's actually been a decent improvement. We've seen about a 10% improvement in available inventory over the last month period. That's good news. If you're a buyer in that segment, this is positive news. You have 10% more houses to choose from than you did a month ago. Now, the other piece of news that we've really been talking about is this condo market. And historically, there's always been more inventory in the condos, but we started noticing this trend maybe about 2 months ago, where this started to narrow. And look at where we are today. The good news is the condo inventory is starting to go back up. Let's hope this trend continues for a couple weeks. But what I find fascinating is it is almost exactly met up with and reached where our entry level single family home inventory was. That's kind of an astounding thing, really, when you think about it, because historically, that has simply almost never been true in our market. We've almost always had more condo inventory than we have had for entry level single family homes. And yet, look at where we are right now. I do think that that's part of a bigger shift. The beginning of the pandemic, I think a lot of people didn't really want condos. Now that things are opening up again, people are getting vaccinated, and sort of that condo stigma has really gone away. So great news on the inventory front. Things are getting better rather than worse, whether you're looking at an entry level condo or a single family home. Now, this graph is something that really sort of blows up this condo single family home dichotomy, right? This is our measure of what percentage of homes that have come out of the market in the last 14 days are still active. How many are still left? So the way to read this chart is if you are in the single family home price range, right, or single family home category, our 25th percentile 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. If 100 homes came on the market in the last 14 days, 67 of them are still available. That's actually pretty good, right? And we are also counting coming soons in this category. But what you look at that's fascinating is look at the inversion that we've seen where our condo market, boy, that availability has started to drop a little bit, and that market has become more competitive. Now, we did see another inversion back here. So I'm wondering, is this going to be just a single week phenomena, or is this kind of the new normal that condos are the new hot market that wasn't previously hot? I actually think we won't see such a big spread between these, but I think condos might be the more competitive market for a little while, at least at the entry level end of the price spectrum. Now we have our weak supply of homes, right? And what we try to do here is this looks at not only our total inventory, but the rate of homes going under contract. So the good news is, weeks of inventory went up slightly for our condos, kind of reversing that downward trend. And we saw a very slight decline for our single family homes. I think this sort of 2.5 weeks of inventory might just be the new normal. So what this says is even though inventory went up, so did new buyers who went into escrow on a single family home, which is pretty interesting to think about. And that leads me to sort of another conclusion. One of the things I talked about last year was that we are in what I'm calling a supply constricted market, meaning if more homes suddenly came on the market, we would see new escrows jump up to sort of eat up those homes because there are just too many people that are waiting on the sidelines for more inventory. So even though that total inventory is going up a little bit, which is great news, I think we're going to see the number of buyers in the marketplace is going to keep us from ever seeing these weeks supply of inventory from really jumping up. That figure is not going to jump because unlike total inventory, which is sort of just how many houses, our week supply of how many houses over how fast are they going into escrow. Anyhow, thank you guys for watching. We love the questions, the comments, keep them coming. People are actually asking some great questions on there. Of course, we are here for you. If you are a renter who would like to become a homeowner, that is, one of the things that really is a major initiative for us is we want more Californians to be homeowners. Definitely reach out to us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you are watching on YouTube, and we will see you on Tuesday for our whole market video and market update, which comes out on Tuesday evenings. Anyhow, we will see you next time. Have a great rest of your weekend.